The year is 1914. Europe stands at the precipice of a new era, basking in the glow of technological advancements and cultural flourishing. The continent is a mosaic of empires and nations, each with its own ambitions and dreams. Europe enjoys a period of relative peace and prosperity. Cities buzz with life and the streets are filled with people going about their daily routines, unaware of the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. Unbeknownst to all, a storm is brewing. Tensions simmer beneath the surface, alliances are tested, and the balance of power teeters on the edge. On June 28, a seemingly insignificant event in Sarajevo will plunge the world into chaos. The city, a melting pot of cultures and ethnicities, becomes the stage for a dramatic and tragic act. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie are assassinated by a young Serbian nationalist, Gavrilo Princip. Their visit to Sarajevo, intended to strengthen ties, instead becomes a catalyst for conflict. This act of violence sets off a chain reaction. The assassination, though shocking, is but a spark in the tinderbox of Europe. Austria-Hungary, fueled by anger and seeking revenge, issues an ultimatum to Serbia. The demands are harsh, designed to be rejected, pushing the region closer to war. The ultimatum is deliberately designed to be unacceptable. Diplomats scramble, negotiations falter, and the clock ticks down to inevitable conflict. Serbia, backed by Russia, refuses to comply fully. The refusal is a defiant stand, a signal that they will not be bullied into submission. Within weeks, the fragile peace collapses, headlines scream of impending war and the streets buzz with rumors and fear. Declarations of war follow in rapid succession. Europe is divided. The intricate web of alliances pulls nation after nation into the fray. On one side stands the Central Powers Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. Their military might and strategic positions make them formidable opponents. On the other side are the Allied powers, France, Russia, Great Britain, and eventually many others. Their unity and resolve will be tested in the fires of war. The Great War has begun. The world watches as the conflict escalates, drawing in soldiers and civilians alike. Few can comprehend the scale of the conflict that awaits. The trenches, the battles, the devastation. None could have foreseen the horrors to come. Millions will march to war, full of patriotic fervor, unaware of the horrors that lie ahead. They march with hope, with duty, with a sense of adventure, not knowing that the world they leave behind will be forever changed. Europe in 1914 is a tangled web of alliances, a powder keg waiting to explode. The continent is a complex network of political agreements and treaties, each designed to protect national interests and maintain a delicate balance of power. However, this intricate system is also a ticking time bomb, with each nation poised to react to the slightest provocation. These alliances, forged over decades, are meant to maintain a balance of power and prevent war. Diplomats and leaders believe that mutual defense pacts will deter aggression, creating a sense of security. Yet this web of alliances also means that a conflict involving one nation can quickly draw in others, turning a small dispute into a full-scale war. Ironically, they instead serve to escalate the crisis. As tensions rise, nations begin to mobilize their armies, preparing for the worst. The very agreements meant to keep peace now act as triggers, setting off a chain reaction of military preparations and declarations of war. Germany, fearing a two-front war, pledges unwavering support to Austria-Hungary. Kaiser Wilhelm II and his military advisors are determined to stand by their ally, believing that a show of strength will deter their enemies. However, this commitment only serves to heighten the sense of impending conflict. Russia, bound by treaty to Serbia, mobilizes its vast army. The Russian Empire, with its immense resources and manpower, prepares to defend its Slavic ally. This mobilization is seen as a direct threat by Germany, further escalating the situation. Germany, fearing encirclement, declares war on Russia and its ally France. The German leadership believes that a swift and decisive action is necessary to avoid being surrounded by hostile forces. This decision sets the stage for a massive and devastating conflict. German war plans hinge on a swift victory in the West. The Schlieffen Plan, a strategy developed years earlier, calls for a rapid advance through Belgium to quickly defeat France before turning east to face Russia. The success of this plan is crucial to Germany's hopes of winning the war. They invade neutral Belgium to bypass French defenses, prompting Great Britain to declare war on Germany. The violation of Belgian neutrality outrages the British public and government, leading to a swift declaration of war. The conflict now involves all the major powers of Europe. The old world order is shattered. The war brings unprecedented destruction and chaos, with cities and landscapes devastated by the fighting. The scale of the conflict is unlike anything the world has seen before. The initial German advance is swift but stalls at the Marne River in France. The French and British forces manage to halt the German advance, leading to a prolonged and bloody battle. This marks the beginning of a long and grueling war of attrition. The war on the Western Front grinds to a halt. Both sides dig in, creating a vast network of trenches that stretch for hundreds of miles. The front lines become a static and deadly battleground, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. Trenches are dug, stretching from the English Channel to Switzerland. These trenches become the soldiers' homes where they live, fight, and die. The conditions are harsh, with mud, rats, and constant danger from enemy fire. This intricate network of trenches becomes the defining feature of the Western Front, a muddy, bloody stalemate that will persist for years. The war of movement has given way to a war of position, with both sides locked in a deadly embrace that will last until the end of the conflict. The Western Front becomes synonymous with trench warfare. Soldiers on both sides endure unimaginable conditions. The trenches are a nightmare, rat-infested, muddy, and constantly under threat. Life is a monotonous routine punctuated by moments of sheer terror. Attacks are met with a storm of machine gun fire and artillery. Gains are measured in yards, often at a terrible cost. The Battle of the Marne, the Race to the Sea, Ypres, these names become synonymous with sacrifice and slaughter. 1916 witnesses two of the war's most horrific battles, Verdun and the Somme. These battles epitomize the brutal and unrelenting nature of World War I, where human life is expended with little regard for the cost. At Verdun, the Germans aim to bleed France white. Their strategy is to inflict maximum casualties, hoping to force the French into submission through sheer exhaustion and loss of life. They unleash a relentless artillery bombardment, transforming the landscape into a desolate wasteland. The once verdant fields are now scarred with craters and trenches, a testament to the destructive power of modern warfare. French soldiers fight with incredible tenacity, clinging to their positions despite staggering losses. Their resilience becomes a symbol of national pride and determination, as they endure unimaginable hardships to defend their homeland. The Battle of the Somme, launched by the British in July 1916, is intended to relieve pressure on the French at Verdun. The British hope to break through German lines and achieve a decisive victory. It becomes a symbol of the war's futility. The initial bombardment fails to destroy the German defenses, and the soldiers are met with fierce resistance. The battlefield quickly turns into a quagmire of mud and blood. On the first day alone, the British suffer nearly 60,000 casualties, the bloodiest day in British military history. The scale of the loss is staggering, and the hopes of a quick victory are dashed. The battle rages for months, a brutal war of attrition. Both sides suffer heavy losses, and the front lines move only a few miles. The soldiers endure constant shelling, gas attacks, and the ever-present threat of death. By the time it ends in November, over 1 million men are dead or wounded, with little to show for the sacrifice. The Somme and Verdun become synonymous with the senseless slaughter and the devastating human cost of the Great War. Section 5. Machines of War Technology's Impact. World War I is a conflict unlike any before it. New technologies emerge, transforming warfare and increasing its lethality. The machine gun, once a novelty, becomes the dominant weapon on the battlefield, mowing down attacking troops with terrifying efficiency. Artillery, more powerful and accurate than ever before, rains down death from afar, obliterating entire trenches in an instant. New weapons of war emerge: poison gas, tanks, airplanes. Poison gas, first used by the Germans, induces terror and agonizing death. Tanks, slow and unreliable at first, offer a glimmer of hope for breaking the stalemate. In the skies, a new breed of warrior emerges, the fighter pilot. Aerial combat captures the imagination, but it is a dangerous game full of daring and death-defying feats. For the millions of soldiers who fought in the trenches, life was a constant struggle for survival. They endured unimaginable conditions: mud, lice, rats, and the constant stench of death. Diseases like trench foot and trench fever were rampant. Despite the horrors, camaraderie and a shared sense of purpose helped soldiers endure. Letters home offered a brief respite, a connection to the world they left behind. In the trenches, soldiers found solace in small things: a shared cigarette, a moment of laughter, a letter from loved ones. By 1917, the war had reached a stalemate. Both sides were exhausted, bled white by years of fighting. The entry of the United States into the war in April 1917 would prove decisive. Angered by German submarine warfare and ties to the Allied cause, the United States provided a much-needed boost to the Allied war effort. Fresh American troops, along with vast industrial resources, tipped the balance in favor of the Allies. The German Spring Offensive of 1918, a last desperate gamble, ultimately failed. By the fall of 1918, the German army was in retreat. On November 11, 1918, Germany signed the armistice, ending the fighting. The Great War was over. In the aftermath of the war, leaders from the victorious Allied nations gathered at Versailles to hammer out a peace treaty. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war. It also, however, sowed the seeds of future conflict. Germany, blamed for the war, was forced to accept harsh punishments, territorial losses, disarmament, and crippling reparations payments. The treaty left Germany humiliated and economically devastated. These resentments would fester in the years to come, contributing to the rise of extremism and the outbreak of World War II. The Great War was a tragedy of unprecedented scale. Over 16 million people perished, leaving countless others wounded in body and spirit. The war shattered empires, redrew the map of Europe, and ushered in an era of uncertainty and instability. It was a war that shattered illusions about progress and the inherent goodness of humanity. The war to end all wars, as it was known, tragically failed to live up to its name. Its legacy would continue to shape the 20th century and beyond.